Welcome, welcome. We have another episode of The Weird Way coming at you, and this one is as exciting as all of the rest. I say that every time, and I'm just laughing at myself in my head when I'm like, oh, that's what you say every time, Dean. So, for those that are new here, welcome. This is what we do. We're a little bit strange, we're a little bit weird, and we're here for a good time. And one of the reasons this today is exciting for me is I've got Blythe Langford joining me. She's a legacy and a longevity coach, and we're just discussing this conversation of like how do we label ourselves in this day and age, especially when we're in the business sense of, oh, I'm here to create transformation, I'm here to create impact. And the world wants us to kind of fit within that box, so it makes it simple for everyone. But I think when we can honor the multidimensionality of ourselves and each other, we really get to know one another and we really get to share our hearts. So, Life, welcome. It's great to have your multidimensional self here.
Thank you so much, Dean. I'm so excited to be here. And I just want to point out as well, I love the weird way. It's like weird and wacky. And it's like, that is my everyday. It's been my everyday for a long time. So I don't know any other way. It's
Mm.
just normal life. I love it. It's so good. But thank you for having me. It's such an honor and privilege to be here.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. And I feel like I've shared this on the space. Why it's called the weird way is because weird was a concept in Anglo-Saxon of the weird. It was fate, it was destiny. So when weird originally came from to control one's destiny. And I love the connotations
Mm,
of that in a modern society, which has, I find, robbed a lot of people of their authenticity. When we find our weird, we also find our authenticity, and in that, we find our way. Mm.
so true. And you've told me that before and I'd forgotten. So thank you for reminding me of that. And absolutely, isn't that just the way of the world? So, yes, that's amazing. Thank you for bringing that back to life.
Mm. Absolute pleasure. So, one of the pieces we were talking on just before we started this recording was this piece that really landed for me. And this isn't something I've really considered. It was the difference between longevity, I mean, legacy and purpose. And this is something that I hadn't really considered. It was something that you just said 10 minutes ago, and it was like, wow, that landed something for me. And I actually want to go into this straight away because I think
Cool.
this is something where we can go in many different directions, but I'd love if you could bring that transmission into this space.
Totally. So many people are putting the value of their whatever their world, their values, their wealth before the value of their life. And for me, the purpose of my life is to meditate, do some breath work, go for a run down through the bush and swim in a waterfall. That's the purpose of my life. Everything else is my legacy piece, right? And that's what I really help people to figure out is their purpose, because people are just like, oh, their purpose, it's what it's going to make the money, it's what I need to do every day, it's what I need to be inspired by. It's like, not really. The purpose of your life is whatever makes you feel most alive and what you can do every day. Because let's say your legacy piece is how you're going to help humanity, or it's your work, it's your give back to the world. But first and foremost, every day you should be able to figure out what your purpose is and fulfill your own cup first, because then your legacy piece is your gift to the world. So that's what I help people figure out, like really dive in deep. And, like the weird way as well is uncover and go through all of our identities, all of these masks created by society over time, over our lineage, through our ancestry, all of it, so that we can actually figure out what makes us happy. How do we want to show up to this day? What do we want to do each and every day that is actually going to create longevity in our lives, that is going to give us really long lives? And then it's such a gift to show up every day and do our legacy piece, because it's like, yeah, I am fully, fully, fully lit up and I am fully alive. And I know that I'm going to have a really long life, because once you are doing those things that help you to figure out what your life purpose is, you don't get sick anymore because you're fully in alignment, right? And then you've got this whole legacy piece where you can actually create what it is that you want to most change and benefit the world and your ancestors. Because like I say to people, there's only 80-year trajectory left of this world, of this planet. And so it's really up to us to figure out our life purpose so that we can create our legacy piece and have a massive shift on this planet.
And this is one of my favorite pieces. I wish I heard this at the start of my journey. Like this is something.
Totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
I started this journey and I was like, I need to save the world. And if for me, I've talked about this on here lately, it's a Messiah complex, which often comes
Mm-hmm.
with a self-sacrifice. It's like, I need to sacrifice myself so the world can be better. And this isn't the way. It's what's actually killing the
Mm,
world because we're killing ourselves and the world's just reflecting that back to us. And when I'm hearing this, I'm like, yes. Because how are we meant to transmit what our work truly is if we're not the living embodiment of it? If
mm-hmm.
your legacy, if you desire your legacy to be an impact on this world, if you're not living what you want to represent to the world, I call it the story, you're living the embodied story within yourself. If that's not
Mm,
moving through you in alignment, well, you can't create that. You can't create a better world if you're not living that way. It doesn't actually work. And this is one of the concepts that's really frustrating because it's like, I want to help, I want to give something. And it's like, there's so much conditioning around maybe this is selfish. Maybe it's selfish to give to myself first. And I'm wondering if you could speak into like that idea that people might feel it's selfish or they don't have the right to treat themselves or they've got to do all these other things before they can actually give to
mm.
themselves.
Yeah, it is a huge one that we've forgotten our self-worth. I mean, for me, everything comes back to our programming, right? And it's all societal programming. I mean, something that I've just learned over the last week, which I hope will be really beneficial and I found so mind blowing and fascinating, is that scientists have decoded our DNA. And so, with our actual, now this will get to the point that you spoke of initially, but our DNA, when they unroll our DNA and they put every single strand of our DNA through all the ancient languages, which is Hebrew, Arabic, Sanskrit, and I've forgotten the fourth one, but they run each part of the DNA through those four languages, the alphabets, and what actually is embedded in our DNA is God eternal within the body. Every single strand of our DNA actually says that. Now, I'm not religious, but if you were a creator, where would you put your signature? In the being that you created's DNA, because it's the one thing that can't be, well, completely shifted and changed. So I hope that gives you a permission piece, everybody a permission piece to realize that they are within their body, there is spirit, there is God. And who knows what God is, but there is spirit flowing through their body each and every day. And so if God eternal is within your body, then it's your birthright to be able to look after your body as if it is a temple because it contains pure spirit and life force. So written in every code of your DNA is the permission piece to look after your body, to look after your mind, to look after your representation of the creation of creator of spirit of source within you. So that is what societal programs have trained us to forget and not know, because like all the ancient priests and rabbis, and still to this day, they've been protecting this wisdom because they don't want us to know. And sorry, my dog's going crazy right now. Can you hear them?
Just that's welcome. We'll have a great dog in the background. It's applause. It's a nice
Yeah,
clap.
they're loving it. They're like, thank you. Just thought I'd bring attention to that. I'm aware. Sorry, everybody. But yes, so society wants us to forget these things because if we all knew that, then we wouldn't buy into the programming anymore. We would all do our things to look after ourselves. And if we were doing that, then when you're in perfect alignment, you don't get sick, you don't get ill. And what are the societal programs giving us and providing us? Healthcare and safety. And so, if we're able to provide that to ourselves, then there is nothing that the external world can actually provide us. So, once we realize that our divinity is us, like the encapsulation of creation within us, then we can come back into full alignment. Then we don't need the external forces that are actually trying to limit our lives And then that's how we actually shift the world. So it is every single one of us go through a process where we feel like, are we worthy to actually do this? Am I actually able to put myself first? Because my conditioning is to be selfless and care for my family and care for my friends more than I care for myself, and put other people's needs before myself, and run from an empty cup so that I get sick, so that I cannot look after myself to the full functionality of my body and my capacity, so that I have a shortened life. Whereas if you actually work yourself through that program every day and say, I'm just going to see how it feels to show up for myself first, and then you do the things that, figure out the things that you love and do those things each and every day, then you'll see that your capacity to show up for others will be far greater than what you have ever imagined. You won't need to sleep as much. You won't need to rest as much. You won't need to eat as much. You'll actually have more time to fulfill your legacy piece and looking after others when you give those moments to yourself. Everything just shifts in your reality. So please allow this to be a permission piece to give it a go.
You mentioned a word in there that has come up in a few conversations I've been having on here lately, which is safety. And this is like when we're looking at a lot of these structures in place, people are seeking this safety outside of themselves. They're seeking it in their job that they feel they have to work. They're seeking it in other structures that doesn't come from within. They're given their power to these entities or structures or programs that they believe keep them safe, because this is what we all crave. Like if we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's one of our first things, like survival, that safety. It's like, if I feel safe in this world, well, then I can relax and I can focus on my other needs. But a lot of people seek this safety in the wrong location. It's like, well, this relationship, this work, this purpose, this job, this like house, they can give me safety. And this is a conversation that I continue to have, is actually when we can give that to ourselves first, when we can begin returning that to our being and being like, actually, it's safe to do what I give to myself today. It's safe to support myself. It's safe to value what I desire. When we can actually start going operating from this place, it completely changes the dynamics. And I know for a lot of people, there's a big journey to go on to actually feel the embodied safety that they're able to have within this world. That's safe for them to be who they are. And if you were to like perhaps share a bit of your own journey on that and what it's taken you to end up to a point where you can feel that safety of, hey, it's okay for me to meditate and go for a run and go like breath work each and every day. It's safe for me to do that, and what you had to unpack to get to where you are now.
Yeah, I'm actually going to answer that in two ways. I've just written that down. So the first thing I'd love to touch on is safety. I used to be, well, I still am a sovereignty mentor as well. So teaching people about their rights. And so and also rebirthing breathwork facilitator, and both of those things are highly linked. So I just want to touch them together because we've all been wired to feel unsafe. As a rebirthing breathwork facilitator, it's all about helping people be birthed and heal their birth trauma. So first of all, heal their birth trauma, because all of us that had their umbilical cord cut means that our first breath due to that cut was in trauma. The umbilical cord is supposed to stay on for a certain amount of time, and then it falls off naturally. And in the time that the umbilical cord is attached and the placenta is attached, the placenta will actually breathe for us when we first come into the world. So the baby doesn't actually need to breathe. And so it can just start to experience and create its own etheric body and create an actual boundary for itself before it takes its first breath. And that's why babies can actually hold their breath underwater for up to half an hour, because they've had that, if they've had the placenta kept on, that's what's meant to happen. And, you know, you would have seen ancient tribes where people can walk underwater. We're all supposed to be able to do that, just FYI. So when our umbilical cord is actually cut off, it means that the baby is, like you've seen a baby when its umbilical cord's cut, it cries, it screams, it's actually in pure terror. So our nervous system's first expression of life is terror, and that's not a mistake. So if our nervous system is wired for terror, then we're going to seek out from our perpetrators where our trauma wounds are, we're going to find safety and comfort from them. So that's why we seek safety and comfort externally, because we've been wired to go through that process. Now, the birthing process, going into a hospital system, for them, it's all just getting people through as quick as possible. So that's why, the traditional ways of doing things and the biological way of birthing isn't current at the moment. But that's what's meant to happen. And so I just wanted to touch base on that, because that's why we seek safety outside of ourselves, because generally our mothers have been drugged when they're in hospital. So we are our drugs go into our system. That's our first experience of life, and then the terror. So we are numbed out. So we're constantly numbed out and looking for and addicted. That's how our natural state when we're birthed into in a hospital system. So that's why we go and seek out all of these things. That's why so many of us go through, our own hero's journey when we're in our late teens or teens and 20s, where we're drinking, drugging, all of those things, because we are experiencing our addictive nature that's been wired into our nervous system, and then like pendulum swinging through different layers of trauma that we're creating, because that's what's been wired into us. So my own personal experience is very similar to a lot of people, unfortunately, growing up in a very abusive and emotionally lacking environment, emotionally unavailable parents, very violent, literally a war zone every night. And being a child, though, I didn't even realize that I was growing up in terror or trauma. I literally thought I had the best parents in the world, and I still do have the best parents in the world, but they were completely emotionally unavailable and extremely violent. And it wasn't until I was in my 20s that my sister actually pulled me inside and was like, you got to stop telling people that you grew up in the best place ever, because we lived in a violent household which was extremely abusive. I was like, what? Are you sure? And then all of the memories start to come back. And it was like, wow, yes, okay, cool. Every few years there was somebody dying. And I should also say, being a rebirthing breathwork facilitator, everything that happens in our conception and through birth will be repeating patterns that happen throughout our life. So for me, my grandfather died while I was in the womb, and I've just had people around me die constantly throughout my life. So that has been very common for me. And then being in a family where that is common, it's also with emotionally unavailable parents. It's like, well, you suppress it and you don't talk about it. You got 5 minutes to go and deal with your whatever you're feeling, and then you can come back in. And if you don't stop crying, then you'll get hit. So my boyfriend, my greatest love when I was 16, had a drug overdose and died, and I had 10 minutes to go down to the park and get over it and never speak about it again. So that was pretty much my life. And yeah, then through my adult years, being dealing with that, not dealing with that, I guess, just started partying, and then became a hairdresser, because that's a place where it's actually okay to take drugs all the time and listen to great music. So I was like, amazing, can't be a nightclub owner like I really wanted to be. My mum wouldn't allow that. And so, became a hairdresser. She wanted to have a hairdresser in the family. She was a narcissist. She told me what to do, and I obeyed. And so I guess for me, being a hairdresser, then, not wanting to let her down, and then just doing whatever I could to succeed in that and be the best. So, joined the best company, Tony and Guy, and then bought my first salon at 24, youngest person in Australia, and, bought a salon that was really unsuccessful and doing really poorly. And the business owner was just completely over it. And I knew that I could turn it into a $1 million salon really quickly. So did that in a year and paid off all the debts and had an award-winning team. And we won a lot of awards within Australia as well, because we were the most profitable. And I'm obsessed with leadership and helping other people. So helping other people become leaders in our company, and paying my staff double what everybody else would, so they would never leave. So they were having the best experience ever. So everybody was winning. It was amazing. But I felt completely unfulfilled as well. And at 26, I had my second salon, because, I was completely unfulfilled. I'm like, I'm going to build an empire. More wealth will make me feel rich inside. and purchased my second salon. And within this 1 year where I became a multimillionaire, the head of our global franchise tried to force me into having sex with him, and got all of the other salon owners in board to try and push me into having sex with this man, and told me that they were going to pay me. I could have whatever I want, $1 million, another salon. And I was humiliated beyond anything you could ever imagine. And the worst thing was my boyfriend was like, why don't you just do it? And this is a boyfriend of 7 years. He's like, we can get $1 million. This is going to be the best thing for us. And then shortly after that, I got cervical cancer. So it was just like the flow on effect of all of these things that were happening because I was completely out of alignment. And knowing that I was completely out of alignment, that was when I was like, okay, cool. Well, I want to leave. But first of all, I needed to look after my health. So I started to go against mainstream belief to heal my cancer. I had cervical cancer stage 4. Yeah, because, they were the ones that gave me the cancer in the first place. I had a cervical cancer vaccine, and then within 6 months I had cervical cancer. I was like, okay, it's a bit messed up here. And then that also is what started my training and teaching into sovereignty as well, learning legislation, learning about the Constitution of Australia, all of these different things, because I was just trying to help myself. I was stuck in this franchise that I couldn't get out of. And then I was also stuck with ill health. So it was trying to learn everything. And it was quite interesting because where I was going down the rabbit holes of learning about alternative health led me to realize that the pharmaceutical companies actually rule the world and rule the governments. And then that's what led me into common law and crown law and constitutional law, and learning about all of these things and how they're exactly the same, really. The pharmaceutical companies are the ones that are creating the law. The pharmaceutical companies are the ones that are creating the education at the universities. So I thought I wanted to be a doctor. And then I realized there's nothing, because my sister was already a doctor, she had medical journals at home, and so did my cousin, because they were a radiographer and an osteopath. So I started learning about physiology of the body, anatomy, and reading all these things. And there was just so much missing. I was like, I couldn't be a doctor because there's not enough information for me to learn to actually treat people. And so alternative health started to become my greatest passion and avenue for education and awareness and enlightenment, really. And started to learn all about that, but still remained stuck in my businesses. So it wasn't until I was 30 that I went to I'd already been vegan for a few years, but I went to a detox center and to learn about treating diseases naturally. So the woman had cured herself from a brain tumor. They cure people from AIDS and cancers and all of these things. I was like, okay, I need to go to this place. And I was there for, when I first arrived, and they said, Blythe, now this will be your last meal. So drink the soup very slowly. And I remember just thinking, these people are going to kill me. What the fuck's going on here? Oh my God, am I tripping out? What is happening? And then I realized, no, it's literally going to be your last meal because you're fasting. I didn't know anything about the world of fasting. I didn't know you couldn't eat. I literally thought they were trying to kill me. I'm like, what do you mean we're not going to eat? I didn't read the fine print. Oh my gosh, what's going on? But yeah, learned all about fasting and detoxing and how that can cure pretty much every disease on the planet. And then I learned about raw food and became a raw foodist 13 years ago as well. Only by accident. They said, if you feel to continue your detox when you go home, just continue to eat plant-based food that's not cooked and see how you go. And then I went and did a lot of training in that. I became a raw vegan chef 3 times over in 3 continents. But the reason I did that is because every day I felt more magic coming to my life. Every day my intuition got stronger. Every day I started to connect with energy and the earth and frequency and vibration in a completely, I hadn't even experienced that before. I probably would be tripping off my head to experience what I was actually experiencing in my day-to-day life. And like, the trees started to communicate with me. I started to see energy coming out of like cars as I'm driving through the tunnel in Sydney, and like the clouds, and just seeing everything. And it was like the veil had completely raised and I was living in another reality. And I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. I will just keep on doing this until this stops. 5 years later, I'm still a raw vegan, just tripping out every day on life, but in the best possible way, whilst running 7-figure businesses, whilst having amazing teams, and then bringing spirituality into my businesses and really having a holistic approach on my businesses, so that everybody was literally winning all the time and cared for and nurtured. Because I couldn't leave, because I was promised my mother on her deathbed that I would stay and figure it out. And yeah, family family bonds, trauma bonds are quite interesting. So yeah, that really played out for quite some time. Yeah, and then I still couldn't leave because I promised my mother that I was going to stay in there. And so I bought my third Tony and Guy salon, and it was one that had never hit profit. It had been 20 years of debt and had never been successful. And my ego was like, yep, I can do this. I'll turn this around. And because I'd already done the other two, I did it in such a short time frame this time. So I was able to have it be 6 figures in a month, and all of the staff went from the worst in our company to being extremely rewarded. So they became the best in our company within that month as well. So everybody was winning. And I was like, okay, cool. Just going to try and sell these salons now. That was the plan, to just have an exit strategy and get out, get my millions back. And the head owners would never let me leave. They wanted to take my salons from me so that they could sell them. So they sabotaged every sale that came through. And then COVID happened, and I ended up, well, I should probably go back a little bit. Went to Peru, of course, to be in the jungle and think that plant medicine can fix everything, because I was in the plant medicine community for quite a while. And like, nothing was happening here to get me out of my world. So yes, of course, you're going to go to Peru and do it over there. I did a 2-week retreat, and yeah, then I had an accident and ran into a brick wall and smashed my arm into a million pieces, and have a prosthesis in my arm, and became disabled. And so that was my it was my second last final wake up call, to get out of the salons, because obviously can't do hairdressing anymore. Like, you could walk away now, but still was addicted to the money, still putting money before my own life. And yeah, didn't get that message. And then so yeah, COVID happened, shut the whole world down. That was on my next trip to Mexico, and I was doing a month initiation over there, where I again nearly died multiple times, being in the desert, getting stung by cactuses, lying down, and literally my whole body was like so swollen I couldn't even put my fingers together. And the people that I was with, I didn't realize I was on an initiation. Like, I didn't realize, like, there was a bit of a communication breakdown with my elders. I was like, no, I'm just coming over to like pay respect to the medicine. They're like, no, we're initiating you to be a peyote woman. I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm just a peyote. That's not my lineage. No. Like, thank you for that opportunity, but I also respect and love these people in the medicine so much that I would rather them come here. And so anyway, that was a very big initiation too. And yeah, during that praying over there as well, then that allowed the sorry dogs, that allowed the world to shift and everything changed. And then COVID happened, and my salons closed down, and I literally just walked away from all of the money. I was like, done. I tried to have lawyers. Tony and Guy had tried to well, they'd stolen all the things out of my out of my product, out of my salons. And yes, I was just left with nothing really, and ended up walking away from all of the money and starting over from scratch. But the universe will always provide when you come back into alignment. So I, yeah, went through the sexual harassments, my partner of 7 years cheating on me, disability, cancer. I got many semi-trailers. You know that saying, first you get a feather, then you get a brick, then you get a semi-trailer. I had lots of semi-trailers that you think that you'd wake up to and walk away from putting your life second to money, and I didn't. And Um, yeah, so that's why I'm all about figuring out your life purpose first, because once you figure out what it is that lights you up and helps you feel alive each and every day, and you do that consistently, then your legacy will always be shown to you. Because once you start to do your life purpose and look after your body and treat yourself like a god or goddess each and every day, then you're peeling away the layers of false identity that are there. You're putting your worth before money, which is, money is only a projection of what we make it. And generally, for a lot of us, myself included, for a long time, it was the projection that money is more valuable than me, and this is something I need to strive for. And no matter how much I get, I still, like, was making multi-million dollars every year. It still wasn't enough, and I still didn't feel fulfilled, and I still didn't put myself before the money. Like, whoa, reality check. Like, source, create, God, Mother Earth, whatever you want to say, is like literally waking me up, like giving me disability, giving me opportunities to walk away. And I didn't, because I was scared to leave the money. And that's like so many people that I speak to in jobs, clients of mine, scared to do what they actually really desire because they don't want to walk away from their money, yet what they're doing is killing them. And so this is something that I see a lot, and I help my clients with a lot. And I'm sure you do as well. And you've had similar experiences as well. It's like what we're doing is actually killing us, and we don't give ourselves an opportunity to follow our hearts because we're so scared that we won't make it. But what does it even mean? Like, we won't make it what? We definitely won't make it to the longevity or the end of our lives if we keep on doing the things that we don't love. So, yeah, that's a little bit about my journey and how, and probably the reasons why I've gone to sovereignty, rebirthing breath work, healing trauma, being raw vegan, and yeah, and leadership and helping other people figure out their way back into the lives that they really want. Yeah.
I'm just laughing here because there's so much to say, and we were having this conversation before this Rick started recording, and it's like we're having it about, okay, we know that on this path, the more experience, the bigger the initiation. It means you're just being willing to hold more, and you're telling your story there, and I'm just like, initiation, 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 and there's a lot there to dive into it, and just to feel like the range of your experience in that, the fullness of that. There's a, I can see why you are where you are. Like, and this is for me one of the beautiful awarenesses that I have, and something I always come back to. When I'm in the depths of an initiation, I can be crawling at the walls, I can be asking why, I can be like praying, why is this happening? What is occurring? I just want something else. Like, please give me something else. And the recognition, and I've heard you sharing this, that the universe is always serving us. It is always providing exactly what we need. We just might not want to listen to it. Our egos don't want to hear that, hey, guy, woman, you're a little bit out of alignment. Get back on your path. It's like the bumper
Mm,
rails in 10-pin bowling trying to push us back. And sometimes we listen. Sometimes
mm,
we're attuned to it, and it's like, oh, I hear you. And other times it's like, no, I do need the cancer, I do need like all of these experiences to actually push me onto my path, because clearly I wasn't listening. Clearly
mm,
it wasn't working for me. And it sounds like there's been so many layers of this journey for you where you've been able to unpack this and like come deeper into alignment. But then there was another layer of like, oh, I wasn't quite in alignment and I was still avoiding it. It feels like the money piece was the big one. It was one of the last things for you to land of like, oh, I need to let this go so I can come into deep alignment for me. And when you were sharing that, I was reflecting on some of my clients who in the past where when I was more in the relationship space, having that same issue with a relationship of like, oh, I can't
mm,
leave this. It's like that almost trauma response to the relationship and also to money of like, oh, this is, I need this. There's an addictive nature to this that we need to unpack to come back in to our alignment and come into listening to our path. And I'm wondering if you can share about that process of like, oh, peeling back the layers so that we can begin to listen to our path, like begin to come into that place of alignment where it's like, oh, I can feel, say, for a lot of people in the business space, it's like, oh, maybe that would be easy money and I could just go do that and, make the money. But it's like 90% of what they truly want. It's not the
Mm,
100%. And
mm,
how that shifts when we actually start going 100% in, when we're willing to go all the way in rather than, I guess I'll accept 90% of what I want rather than the full fuck yes.
mm, mm. Well, I feel like the most important thing, because one thing, yeah, I feel like the most important thing is to first of all work on your purpose. So your daily things that make you feel really alive, especially like if you're not fully feeling aligned to step away from something that you are doing that may be soul crushing, is to really work on your purpose thing. Because let's say, you know, I can only share, like a lot of people that come to start off working with me, they're like, going to bed really late, staying up doing the drinking thing with their clients, with their work colleagues, not looking after their health. Oh yeah, I travel too much to look after my health, and I can't do this and I can't exercise. I just don't have the time because it. So once you start to like, I would say the first thing would be to have integrity with your body. Start off just looking after your body and have integrity with yourself, because once you start to self care, then everything else will start to melt away. Because when you start to self care, then you'll become in alignment and you'll become your channel, your clear channel to your intuition, to source, to Mother Nature, to what you're meant to be doing, to the legacy piece that is actually on your soul. Then you won't be able to hide from that anymore. I feel like the alcohol and drugs and doing these jobs that we don't love are actually to numb our internal dialogue of what is actually being spoken to us each and every day. Because I believe we are so infinitely intelligent that if you're not aligned with your mission or your purpose or your vision or your legacy piece, that you're just numbing yourself down because your insides are screaming at you to do that thing.
Mm.
So I believe that that is the most important thing that people could do. Secondly, to that, people having fear to walk away from their current work and do something that they love. It can be generally a few different things. It might be that they just haven't even figured out a plan for it, or it might be that it isn't really fully in alignment. Again, you're trying to just think of something that's going to provide you money or wealth, and there is potentially another initiation piece that you need to go through that's going to give you the tools and the tips and the people and the resources and the grit and the strength and the determination to actually figure out how you can make that thing really viable. So yeah, I feel like sometimes it's a bit of both, because yeah, a lot of people will just choose the next thing from their head and it's still never from their heart. I really do
Mm.
notice that a lot. Um, yeah, it's just the constant tripping out to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And it's like you still haven't even put yourself first. Like, when was the last time you actually breathed? When was the last time you actually took stillness in nature by yourself to decompress and defrag what is actually wired your nervous system and your cortisol levels through the roof, so that you can actually drop in and be like, yeah, I was full of crap. No, it's actually this thing. Or, yeah, that is so true and in alignment with my soul and my spirit. And the only reason I'm not doing that is because I'm scared. And it's like, cool, then it's just a fear piece that you get to work through. And the best thing that dissolves fear is courage. That's the only thing. It's just being courageous enough to step through your fear. And if you're not courageous enough to step through your fear alone, then find other people that can help you feel stronger. Straight up. Like, maybe it's your community, maybe it's a coach, maybe it's more education, maybe it's somebody that's already done that before as a mentor, whatever it is. Like, figure out what's going to give you the balls that you need to be able to step through. Lady balls or man balls, all the same. But to be able to get to where you want to be. Like, I know for me, sometimes it's like being when it's, I feel like I'm in my divine masculine and feminine quite equally. And it's been when I've been in my feminine that I haven't actually had the courage to step through certain things because I'm just so comfortable in my space and just living my life purpose and not doing my legacy piece. So it's about having some grounded masculine energy to help me come through and be able to create that divine union so that I can step through into the thing that I really love and am passionate about. For me, that was my dad coming, like I needed some masculine energy literally to be able to help birth. I forgot to mention that I am building a retreat center. I'm on 50 acres in the bush. I forgot to mention the best part of the story. But yeah, so I needed some masculine energy to help see my vision and to be able to ground that in and then birth what I've been dreaming about for the last 10 years. So yeah, it's about, and it can come from the most random place. I never thought it would come from my dad and helping him heal, being a breathwork therapist and going through his own birth traumas. And then in return, being able to, like live my life dream. So it's just about being, I think, open to the possibility that, and speaking to other people about what it is that you really love and figuring out who can help you with your vision. Because yeah, once it's alive in you and you're courageous enough to start expressing it, then the right people will always show up. Like, it's uncanny how it happens, and that's what's meant to happen when you are living your purpose. And it might not happen as fast as you want. For me, it hasn't happened as fast as I want, but I needed to go through all those initiations, the cancer, the disability, the figuring out all of these other things, like going through and like helping my mother and my father pass over as well. Like, I've gone through so many big initiations because a lot of us that are in the healing arts, and healing work is an art form, like a lot of us that are in the healing arts, we, in order for us to take our clients through those spaces, we've had to have traveled them ourselves. So it's not a burden, it's a blessing that we get to go through those things. And I believe the meaning of life is just to feel. So feel whatever you're feeling and give yourself permission to feel. Like, I'm all about feeling. I'm everything, feeling it fully and expressing it. It's just energy and motion. So feeling whatever you're feeling, giving yourself the permission to do that is going to collapse the timeline so that things can happen a lot faster. That's our human experience. That's what I personally believe. Did I answer that question? I sort of went on
You,
so many tangents as well.
You answered it all and gave me so many opens, and I was like, "Ah,
Great.
where do I want to take this next?" Because there was one piece that I just wanted to briefly touch on before we move on. Is you mentioned integrity with yourself, and you
Mm,
said that, and I was
mm,
like, can you explain that, like, of actually what that means? Because it can be like, oh, what is that?
mm, mm. Oh my gosh. Yes. And I feel like, when you start your spiritual journey, like for me, mine was 18 years ago. Um, it's about being in alignment and being in integrity. And it's like the longer that you are on your spiritual path and journey, it becomes so acute, the level of integrity that you have to have with yourself. Because if you do not, then you'll be pulled back into alignment with a brick semi trailer feather. And I'm done with the feather. I'm done with the semi trailers. I much prefer feathers. So what I mean by that is, if I do not listen to my intuition and my gut when I'm making decisions, and I go from my head or people pleasing or something that, what's the word, I feel obligated to do, watch something fuck up. Like, watch it fuck up. So it's about being in full integrity and at times potentially thinking that you are doing a disservice or maybe being rude, or especially like the people pleaser in me, like growing like many other people growing up in trauma or with a narcissist around, you become a codependent and a people pleaser. So it's constantly working through that within myself and saying, look, I just don't know what. We're not even giving a reason. It's like, I'm really sorry I can't be there. I'm really sorry I can't do that. Or maybe not even being sorry. It's like, that's just not going to work for me. Like, let's do something another day. And you won't even know why it doesn't align, but it'll make sense on the day when you're in alignment and you're like, oh, this thing was going to happen. That's why I couldn't go to that thing. It makes sense, or like knowing, like we're supposed to go somewhere tonight. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm saying that I'm going to go, but I know that I'm not going to go. And the person just messaged me and been like, I just had all this money stolen. I've been at the bank. I can't, it's not going to happen. I was like, okay, yeah, I knew that. That was definitely not what I thought was going to happen. How can I support you in that? But, it's those little things. Or, for example, this is a huge one, and I would love people to get this. When I don't put my morning practices first and I start working, hello, what the day that shows up. So, I mean, and it's not all the time, but generally, if anything is going to fuck up beyond all repair, it'll be on a day where I haven't put myself first. And it's a rarity these days. Like, I will always do all of my things that I love before I even turn my phone on, because, and I do that quite differently to a lot of other entrepreneurs. People are like, oh, well, how do you even make that money? Da 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 da. I'm like, look, I was a multimillionaire for 15 years. Like, believe me, put yourself first and more money will come through. That's when you're really rich, because there are so many wealthy people that are broke, and there are so many wealthy people that are not rich. So it's all about making yourself rich, and then everything else will come. Like, the richness comes from your experience of life. So for me, like, my richness and my wholeness comes from putting myself first and being in full alignment with my purpose. That's why I'm like, figure out your purpose. And people are like, I always thought purpose was my job and what I'm meant to do. It's like, that's because that's what you value more than your life right now. Let's get back into alignment and put yourself first and your needs first. Um, yeah. Does that what you
Yeah.
were talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really see this piece strongly with you of like when you say you're a longevity coach, I really feel that
Mm,
piece coming through in your transmission just there. Because I see a lot, especially in the coaching industry, people supporting other coaches and that there's a lot around like make the first 10K, like programs to make your 10K in
mm,
90 days and all of this, whatever it is. And there's this energy where it's very brushed, like where it's just like,
mm,
I got to get there, I got to get there. And I
mm,
know for me, this was how I operated like 2 years ago. This was me. This is what my coaches were like push, push, push. Don't give myself any time and just like
mm,
push as far as I could. I burnt myself out. It was like pushing beyond the edges and on the limitations of myself because I never gave to myself when I was doing that. And I love where you're taking people on this journey of actually honoring the self. Because for me, one of the most important things for doing business is so I can build the lifestyle I want, so I can build
mm,
the life I want. If I'm doing that, if I'm not doing that, I've failed. Like I'm not doing a business in an aligned way because why would I be doing that? I could get a 9 to 5 and do something I don't want to do. Like that's the whole point of creating a business is to be your own boss. And that doesn't mean you don't do anything, but it means you do it in a way that's aligned to you. And this is something that I feel is a change and a shift. And I ran a workshop on the weekend called The Path of Service. And one of the pieces I taught was that the initial phase, the hustle kind of thing, is very much the initial hero's journey. It feels like
mm,
this conquering archetype where I need to go out and I need to get and take, and I've got to prove that I'm strong, that I'm tough, and that I can do all these things. And there's this
mm,
almost immaturity to it where I need to prove myself. I need to be the one who looks very bright and shiny and all of this. And this is what I found. And then on the other side of that, there's what I call the artist's journey. This is based off like Stephen Pressfield's work, The Artist's Way. And he speaks about the artist's journey. And it's like the continuation of the hero's journey that never stops. Because you spoke about
mm,
this as healers, coaches, facilitators we'll generally have to go on the journey again and again to deepen and grow and transform and evolve so we can guide other people along that way as well. Because if I'm stagnant here, well, are my clients going to go any further? There's got to be no energetic vortex to help pull them through. It's like, I'm done, guys. I'm done. Like, I need to be continuing my own evolution. And that may be sitting in stillness and doing nothing. That can be growing. Like growing doesn't always mean doing a lot. I just want to frame that section because I see that if you're not growing, you're dying. And then people are like, I'm not doing anything. Well, maybe your conditioning is you need to stay still and that is growing. So just a caveat to that. And in the
mm,
artist journey, it becomes more about creating a more beautiful world. It's like, no, I'm building something here. I'm placing a brick each day. I'm not trying to conquer another castle. I'm building my own castle. And this is where I see a lot more people coming into their maturing is they recognize to be the king and the queen, which everyone seems to want. And like, find your king, find your queen. No, that actually, you've got to build your own castle. You've actually got to build that because if you're trying to take someone
Mm,
else's, you're a usurper. There's not like the I don't depth of connection to what you've built. It's just like, oh, I don't care. And for me, this is one of the most important pieces when we're considering longevity, because if you conquer another castle, like I'm going to stick with this metaphor, there's going to be people who are going to want revenge, they're going to want to take it from you, and there's going to be constant fighting. If you're building your own castle, you're going to be building relationships with people who can support the build of your castle. You can build relationships like with the land, with the castle itself. You know every nook and cranny, and then you can sit and you can relax like when it's done and be like, cool, like this is mine. I don't need to defend
mm,
this in the same way because I know in my bones this is mine. And I find that is where the longevity lives. Because if you're trying to conquer, well, how many soldiers die quickly? Like that, the old caveat, knights die young. It's like, cool. It's
mm,
actually, we're here to build. We're here to be the artist to paint the world in a more beautiful way. And I feel that transmission through your work, which is so, so
mm.
beautiful to feel.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Yes. And like, and what you're saying, like, yeah, come and build a business and, 10K in 90 days and all of those things. It's like you said, a lot of people are unhappy with what they build. And it's just another job that they've created for themselves. Yeah, there's money, but they're working double as much and they don't have a lifestyle that they like. And they're mentally worse off. Like literally, like their mental health is more at stake. So yeah, everything I do is always based around figuring out like what lights your soul up. And then also as well in that is like detoxing, multidimensional detoxing on every single layer and level so that you can actually I think not have an identity. Why do we need an identity? An identity is full of shit. Like just show up and just be all of the things, all of you, and do whatever the hell it is that you want to do, however you want to support people. Because, it'll generally be you sharing your message about your past that will attract in people that want to work with you. And if you've, like you said, Dean, if you've designed your life around how you want to live each day, then your work will figure out a way to support you and it will be around that as well. Like it doesn't need to be, showing up and doing 30 clients a week at this certain amount of money because then you make this much money. It's like, oh, that is so mentally draining. Oh my gosh, your nervous system, like, ouch, like, ouch. I, it's like, how can you design a life maybe where you're having those same amount of people, but you're seeing them for 3 hours a week collectively. And then you get all of this time to reinvest in yourself. And like you said, Dean, whether it's, that's learning to be in stillness with yourself so that you can figure out like your mental monkeys and how to get them all in a row to be working with you so they're great allies and you're no longer trying to escape yourself, or whether it is building this beautiful relationship. Absolutely, like first of all the relationship with yourself, like you're saying, cultivating that within you so that you have maybe attract your perfect partner, or it allows your partner that you're already with to step up and become the perfect partner as well. So yeah, absolutely, the grass is always going to be greener where you water it. So it's about watering it. And even when I was in my businesses as well that I did not like, I loved support. I found the things that I loved supporting my teams with. I turned my KPIs into spiritual, like everything, everything meant something rather than naturally being about what it was about. And because I was able to see through it all. So, how can you, even if you can't transcend to your perfect world right now, how can you create beauty in your world that lights you up, that makes it feel so much better for you? And I believe the first piece of that is always about filling your own cup up first, because then you'll go in full and you'll be like, oh, okay, that sales report is actually talking about how much our clients like us. And so how can we work on a relationship with our clients to so that that really increases? Or our return rate is how well we served them when we were in the shop, or our um, our cost of goods shows how much we respect the earth because we don't want to pollute it. Like I literally had those metrics change around in my businesses, and it was like, wow, okay, now that people were seeing it in those certain ways, it was like, we're going to do everything a lot different, like a lot more differently. So it's creating such beauty and respect, like I said, for yourself first, and then for your environment will change and shift everything. And then you'll get to see what it is that you're passionate about, and then your next legacy piece will really, really show up for you. And thank you for honoring the legacy and the longevity, and seeing it through your eyes. Dean has just been like, whoa, it's so beautiful that you get it as well. I was like, wow, it's so amazing that you get it like that. It's yeah,
Mm.
it's amazing. Because then, like we were speaking about before, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I like calling myself longevity and life coach, like longevity and legacy coach. People don't get it. You totally get it. I was like, wow, thank you for it's not what I believe a lot of people are doing, because they see it as a different way. So it's about speaking longevity into things and speaking true legacy into things, and it dissolves away this mind construct of putting anything before ourselves and putting anything before the planet, and everything's going to be in harmony. And I remember this one young guy, we were on a boat cruise for somebody, and he was talking about changing the Gold Coast. And if you are this person, I love you. Changing the whole Gold Coast high rise so that there's just buildings everywhere and they're beautiful and da da. I was like, I love that you're doing that from your mind, and it's so amazing. And how can we potentially incorporate that and be sustainable and still allow people to have sunlight on the beach? Because if you do that, there's never going to be sunlight in the afternoons. Like, let's be honest. So how can we see our impact of what it is that we want to create as well? And then maybe shift and alter what it is that we're doing so that it can be more harmonious. Because yeah, people get to be in a high-rise building on the beach, but those people that are on the beach in the high-rise building also want to get to the beach as well and enjoy sunshine. So what you are creating, how is it going to impact, and really looking at the impact that you are creating and how that can potentially be done differently. I mean, if it was up to me, I'd tear down all of them. But if that is your niche that you're going for, then think about how it's going to impact others and how it's going to give us an extra 100 million years on this planet, or potentially take away from our 80 and only give us 60. It's really important. It's really important for us all to be accountable.
Yeah, that last piece of responsibility for our creations is one of the things that I think really shows the type of person we are. Because it
Mm,
is, we are in this day where it's like, with great power comes great responsibility. It's like we
mm,
have the capabilities to do so much. Anyone can build a business, anyone can sell anything, anyone can create something and just offer it to the world, to billions of people instantly. That's the world we
mm,
live in. They can share ideas, they can share just anything. And it's like,
mm,
cool, with that, how are we adding to this world? It for me is the canvas. I think of myself as an artist, obviously from the artist journey, but it's like, cool, everything I do is adding a stroke to that canvas. That canvas is humanity. And is that making it more
mm,
beautiful? Am I creating with intention? Am I allowing something where I've sat with, where I've felt it through and be like, yeah, this is what I'm being asked to do. Am I allowing it to
mm,
emerge without trying to force it onto the canvas and just splatter it everywhere? Or am being like, no, this requires some intentionality and like some slowness to allow this to be here. Because
mm,
when we're talking about the hustle culture, the thing that I really feel the invitation for us, and why I'm really getting enthralled by your work, is longevity for me thinks of the opposite of that. It's actually, no, let's slow down. What happens if we slow? And you're talking about clients, and it's like, for me, I'm in that phase of my business where I'm like, I don't want to have many clients scattered throughout the week. I want to have a few and we go deep. That is more enjoyable for me. It's like there's more intention. It takes more energy from them. It takes more time to create. And it's like more impactful as well. And the ripple is more because no longer is it like, oh, here's a little bit, and it's scattered. It's like, no, there's an intentionality that we're creating by saying, hey, I'm committing to this for a few hours at a time. And instead of needing the
Mm,
transformation to happen like just like that, just in the next like minute, it's like, no, let's give the body some time to calibrate and allow it to land.
mm,
And when we operate from that, I think the ripple is so much different because it's like, no. I'm not trying to rush through this life to what get to the end so I can die and like come back. It's like, oh, do I want to slow down and enjoy as much as possible? And this is my biggest shadow because I'm like, there's so much to do, so much I want to create in this world. And it's like, Dean, remember, you have so much longer to do that. And that will happen if you
mm,
stop, if you let go. And I think this is such the beautiful invitation of your work and what you're sharing in the longevity and the legacy, because there's the longevity for ourselves, but the legacy, the piece that lands is like our work isn't only for us. It
mm,
isn't only for us. And to be able to be like, no, I'm building this so others can enjoy this. I'm planting the garden so the person after me can enjoy it. I'm planting the tree so
mm.
someone else has shade. Like I'm creating a body of work so people can come back to this and return even if I was gone. And it's like, oh, when we start considering that, it's like that changes the world because too many of us look at this lifetime. It's like, what can I achieve? It's like, what could humanity achieve if we're operating from this space of lifetimes working towards a common vision or common goal? That shifts so much. And there's a beautiful service of life that's created in that exchange.
Oh, that's so stunning. Yes, I love that. I mean, gosh, I'm literally living that right now as well. The property that I live on has got 1,200 fruit trees that were planted 35 years ago by this one man. And every day I just, like, who's passed away, and every day I literally am just like honoring him and so grateful to him and his family that they've done all of this so that one raw vegan can just come in and like live in her tropical paradise, you know? And then again, what's my responsibility here? And I have like a 10-year vision, like as well for, well, it's not a 10-year vision, it's like a lifetime vision. I've got all the visions, but what we want to do on this street as well, and what we're calling in, and, you know, recreating this to be a beautiful educational suburb, because there's only 15 properties in our family, and I mean, sorry, in our street family, the same thing. Beautiful slip of the tongue. And it's like, okay, cool. There's, you know, a lot of people that are our way inclined here, like my best friends that I've met through living on this street. And it's about bringing more people in and creating that community vibe, not by subdividing the land, but actually expanding so that it's community together, working together, so that there's different spots in our suburb where different things are happening. Obviously, I've got the exotic fruit trees, and then other people have got different bits where they all marry up and match up. We've even got an airstrip down the street on one guy's property, which is amazing. So all of our needs are met here, right? And it's like you said, that responsibility piece. How is it going to be better? Like, what impact are you going to create? Like within my salons, I didn't have any waste in my salons. The hair we would recycle, they would turn into mats that would help with oil spills. The cans they would recycle back into foil so we could actually use them. The color, we never put color down the sink, they would actually treat it so that it would turn back into water. Like, we recycled absolutely everything. There was no waste in our salon at all. And all of my salons were like that. It was amazing. And then bringing that awareness onto the land as well. Like, I'm a city girl, but coming to the land as well. And once you start to become in tune, and I'll touch into being in tune with the land as well. But once you start to become in tune with that as well, then you get the visions of what's meant to happen there as well. You don't need to like egoically think that it's all going to, you need to think about all of these things. Just be in alignment. You'll get all the messages. It'll come through. You don't need to stress or worry. You know, like, I don't know why I am personally thinking about windmills and hydro technology and how that is going to work and on my farm, but I'm waiting to meet the person. And this is how it always happens for me. I get the visions 10 years in advance, and then figure out all the people and all the links in the chain and how it's going to get there. It's like, okay, cool, we're going to have a windmill here, we're going to have this hydro technology, and then we can be completely sustainable like that rather than the solar technology, because I don't want to create lithium batteries that are really actually detrimental to the environment. So it's all of these little pieces. And for me, like, I'm obsessed with nature, I'm obsessed with health, because they are the same thing. Like, nature is our body, and literally there's a black cockatoo just screaming right now, which is a beautiful alignment. When Like, so much has been hidden from us, right, about our actual bodies. What, like, I don't even know where to start because I'm so excited about the human body. Like, it just blows my mind. The Around the lining of our gut, there's like little tubes all the way around, right? And they look like flowers. Like, we are literally within our body. There is like flowers and waterfalls within us. Like, we are as beautiful as the external world. And when you can see that you are just pure nature, and all you need to do to biologically sustain yourself is eat pure nature, because there is no disconnect. Like, everything that we need is literally out there, like generally within a 2 kilometer radius of what we are going through within our body. Like, everything that we need is externally provided through nature. And when we have that beautiful synchronicity where we eat solely off the land or solely nature foods that are in their natural raw state, then our body is attuned to the highest frequency that there is, and our life force, our energy, our radiance, our aliveness, and anti-aging, it all happens because we are so succinct with nature. And then we will be put into the places where we're meant to be. I never thought that I'd be living on 50 acres owning a property because I was into sovereignty. I did not want to be in the system whatsoever. Like, I thought I needed to go and live in Hawaii to be on an exotic fruit farm. Like, and I never thought I'd be able to do it all by myself. Like, I live here by myself. A friend has just come 2 weeks ago to come and help me, but I live on a tropical fruit farm by myself, looking after 1,200 trees in the middle of the belly of an extinct volcano, looking at two of the most sacred rocks in Australia, according to our local Indigenous mob. You know, the sacred masculine, the sacred feminine, are the rocks that are like the big mountains that are around us. And this valley is supposed to be of complete duality of the masculine and feminine. It's like the most sacred valley in Australia. I was like, okay, thanks. I feel so privileged to be here. Thank you. Like, amazing. Like, my bedroom looks at this rock every day, the feminine rock of the area. I was like, okay, thank you. I love those codes. Great, bring them in. You know, like, so once you become aligned and in balance and do your life purpose every day and put pure nourishment in and stop poisoning yourself, you just become attuned to like nature and what it wants to do. Like, I literally just go for a run to the end of the street, talk to some sacred trees every day. What's the message for humanity today? And I get a download every day. They will tell me. Like, it's pretty cool. You know, it's like, oh, let's share this message. I'm like, oh yeah, that's so good. I didn't even have to think about it myself. You know, like, let the ego go and just become attuned with nature, and it will give you all the messages that you need. So yeah, I just needed to put that in as well. You know, I'm obsessed.
Mm. That is beautiful. I love this. It feels like a nice little neat bow for us to begin to wrap this up of like the power of when we're beginning to attune and actually connect into the external as a representation of the internal. This has been one of the biggest journeys for me. It's like, oh, there's a reflection here. It's showing me something.
Mm,
Every time I've always been fascinated by when I get asked to move by the universe. I got hit by a
mm,
tornado on Christmas Day
yes,
and it pulled the roof
yes.
off the house I was in. And I was like, oh my God, I love the house I was in. I didn't want to leave. And then now, if you're watching this, you can see around me, like I'm in a yurt made out of wood. And I'm like, I feel like I live in a tree now. And I'm like, oh my God, the
Mm,
universe asked me to move. It was like very forceful. I'm like, was that the bus? Maybe. Okay, I listened. I listened, but it brought me here. And this was so beautiful. And it's like, can we trust in where we're guided to without that trying to control, which has been one of my biggest fears. It's like, oh, I think I know where I want to go. I think I know what I need to create. And the ego wants to know those stories. But it's like, no,
mm,
what's being asked of us? What is being asked of us? And I think that's a beautiful reminder of to come home to that question for me of what is truly being asked of us and what wants to move through us. And can we trust in that to allow it? So Blythe.
Totally. And allowing yourself to go through that terror
Mm,
as well. Like terror it's the scariest thing to ever be able to feel. And you allowed that to flow through your body, you know? Like I
mm,
saw you not long after that, and it was like there was so much going through you and growing through you. And
mm,
like it's
mm,
so many people will just never be able to experience that. Like they just numb and suppress that. And you got through it. And now you live
mm.
in a tropical treehouse. Amazing. Like so good.
Exactly. Exactly. And what we were speaking to earlier of each initiation is just so we can hold more. That taught me so much.
Exactly.
And now I get to hold people at a deeper level. And it's like there's beauty in that. And when we're willing to approach the world from that way of it's always serving us rather than blaming or judging or resenting, actually, then we become more attuned to alignment. And that's what I found. It's like, no, I needed this. I needed these lessons, these codes, this transformation. So,
100%. I also just want to tune into one more thing before we go, if that's okay.
yes, bring it.
It's about attuning into wherever you go. So, like, half of the reason that I love to meditate, no matter where I am, is to tune in with other countries as well. So, really great practice. You know, we're really great at welcome to country in Australia these days, which is awesome. And when we go to other places, just attuning to wherever you are. Like when I went to Singapore, like I'm just going to say two of the biggest experiences that I've ever had. Going to Singapore, and I was sober, not doing plant medicine or any of those kind of things, just a raw vegan. But in Singapore, just really tuning in, and I was in a really high building, but did this beautiful meditation, dropped into the land, and that was about 7 or 8 years ago, and that was the first time I'd ever experienced dragons and just
Mm,
tuning into what was on that land. And that was a spin out, you know. So just tuning into different places and you never know what shows up for you. And then when I was in Africa, like I did a beautiful meditation there. It was the first time I actually did a really long meditation because the ancestors took me in and just took me away and showed me all of these amazing things. And that was about 15 years ago. And it's just about taking the time and the space. And people are like, oh, it's so boring. Why would you even do that stuff? Oh my gosh, no, it's a holy, amazing wonderland when you allow yourself to go in there. And it allows you to have a beautiful experience of life as well. But being able to connect deeply, and it just is through stillness and breath. All you have to do is close your eyes, sit there and breathe. That's really it. And have a beautiful intention in your heart, and stuff will come through. So I really would love you to take that opportunity when you travel as well to tune in where you go and just give a bit of like respect to the land and the ancestors of that land, and just allow them to show you whatever it is that they want to show you as well, because it can be really
mm,
super profound. And that's why having a clean vessel, like no poisonings within your body, will allow you to be open to receive those things. And I'm here for that, and I'm sure most people that are listening to this podcast are here for that.
mm. I love this last transmission because I feel like that is how we transmit these codes across the world as well. It's not only
Mm,
what we're
mm,
receiving, but also what we're offering back, like sharing the
mm,
knowledge that we hold within our body, the codes and the transmissions we've received from other lands, and actually create this global network of interconnectedness. Like there's an
mm,
excitement in me for like, oh, what transpires as more and more of us are become wisdom keepers within ourselves, and we begin sharing that just from our transmission, not needing to do anything other than just be and like honor the land and walk the land. And
mm,
for me, there's a really exciting journey ahead with that.
absolutely. Yeah.
Mm.
For everybody, for you and for everybody. I'm so excited for how, you know, even just this transmission and all of the work that you do, and myself as well, like, and all the people that are listening, every single one of us is this beautiful tapestry to create the perfect planet. I'm so excited to be like journeying with all of you.
Yeah. We
Mm.
are the jigsaw pieces and we're just fitting together to create this beautiful, beautiful picture. And that excites me on the deepest level. Life.
So,
Before we finish up, is there any pieces of that are still alive that still want to be shared, or any last wisdom?
mm. If somebody wanted the most simple way that they could start to nourish their body, I literally, these are the two things. In summer, have watermelons for breakfast. In winter, have citrus for breakfast. Easiest way to detox, easiest way to flush anything out of your body. Just do that and you'll feel a million times better. That's the easiest way that you could detox your body and get plants, natural plants into you. because the more you get plants into you, the more you'll connect with nature.
That I love the simplicity. I love the ease of that, and I love the invitation. And you made me think of the delicious watermelon I've got in my fridge right now. So thank you very much, Blythe. If anyone wanted to connect with you, or if there's anything you've got coming up, I'd love you if you could share with the audience, let them know what's occurring and how they can find you to journey deeper as well.
Thank you so much, brother. Yes, I you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, and it's just Blythe Langford. And my YouTube channel, my podcast. So my podcast is on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So wherever you like to watch podcasts or listen to podcasts, but YouTube's always best for me. So if you want to find me on there, I've got a beautiful podcast talking about more in depth of these the topics that we've spoken about. And then you can find me on my website, which is Blythe Langford as well. So just finding out about my programs and retreats as well. So just like you, I like to keep things simple. I don't offer a lot of things. There's just 2 things that I offer, and that's all on my website. So you can get on there and find that. Thanks so much, Dean.
Absolute pleasure to have you here, Blythe. Everything will be in the show notes. So if you're looking to connect, find her in the show notes and give her a follow, give her a like, share what's landed for this conversation. I'd love if you shared and let me know as well. I really love hearing back on what really transpired for you throughout this journey. Been such a pleasure for you to be here. Blythe, thank you so much for joining us on the Weird Way.
Thank you, Dean. And I love what you're doing here. It is such profound work. And I love how you interview and what you do and the pieces that you pull out of it and all of your vision and what you see. So I'm just honoring you. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much.